When I first got into high ticket sales, there was a core belief that I was operating under, a belief that kept me broke, a belief that even after I'd been in high ticket sales for a while, I was making 6K a month, 8K a month here and there. This belief still kept me broke. And for me, the broke in this video is defined as anything below, let's say 10 to 15K commissions per month. All right, to me, that's making less than that is not where you want to be. That's not enough to have freedom. Making 5K, 6K is not enough for freedom. So there was a belief that I had that kept me broke and that kept me not making the kind of commissions that I wanted to make, and that kept me in a state of scarcity. It kept me in a state of always wondering where the next month of rent was going to come from. You know, and I had this, I stuck in this mindset for a while, and it took a while for me to actually correct it and to change it. And something that my sales manager gave me, my sales manager Lynn, back on the dating offer that I was on, changed the game for me. And this belief system, I'll tell you what it is now, is that I cared about what people thought about me. Okay, that was the belief. I thought so much about what people cared about me. I thought so much about how people perceived me on calls. I thought so much about, is this person gonna like me? Is this person gonna think I'm nice? Is this person gonna think I'm cool? Is this person gonna think I'm professional? I thought so much about this. And this video today, is going to challenge your beliefs. You may not like what I'm gonna say here. Because if I would have heard this same video about, let's say, what is it? It's April 29th as I'm shooting this. So let's say about a year and 8 months ago, if I would have heard this video and I would have had someone tell me this at the time, I would have been in a state of resistance and I wouldn't have been able to understand it well. It actually took me going through a relatively high degree of pain and frustration with my closing skill set, with my closing numbers, with my performance, for me to actually change this mindset and for me to actually make a lot of money. But this mindset had a direct relationship on me not making the money I wanted to make. And what I'll do is I'll expose the belief, I'll explain and talk to you about the belief, and I'm going to try to challenge the way that you think and the way that you operate as a sales rep, or just as a professional in general, whatever you sell. If you're a high-ticket business owner or if you're a high-ticket closer, this will help you. It's a pretty good self-development idea in general, but it directly affects the way that you make money. So I want you to understand this first principle. The idea of who you are is constructed based on data and based on feedback that you receive from the world. Okay, so the world is giving you feedback and data, and from a child, from a young age, your parents are giving you data and feedback, your classmates are giving you data and feedback. The world is giving you data and feedback that tells you explicitly or implicitly, this is who you are as a person, this is how you are to interact with the world, right? So let's say that you got bullied as a kid, making it up. You got bullied as a kid for having glasses. I wear glasses, not just sunglasses. I actually am supposed to wear glasses, but I wear contacts because I didn't like having glasses as a kid. So I got rid of them as soon as I could, as soon as my parents would let me, and I haven't worn them since. So let's say you got bullied for having glasses, right? And you were told that isn't cool. Maybe you've done some work and it wasn't a big deal for you and you moved on from it, but for some people, that belief system that was programmed into you through friends, through classmates, through whoever it is going to stick with you into your childhood years, outside of your childhood years, and as you grow up, and it'll become a part of your identity. So you have this idea of who you are as a person, and it's been constructed based on data, based on feedback, based on information, based on conversations, whatever it is that you receive from the world. And the key of what we're going to go through here is you need to remove yourself from the baseline conditioning, because the baseline conditioning that you're operating from, and I'm speaking to old Tim, right, to Tim back in 2023 when I was trying to make money because I couldn't pay my rent because my business had failed, right? The version of you that is going to make the most money as a sales rep or as a high-ticket business owner through closing deals, the version of you who's going to close deals is the version of you who's removed themselves from that baseline conditioning that tells you to play it safe, or that tells you need to be light, or that tells you to just have a good conversation and give the person the answers they're looking for, what they need. That's what it is. My dog is going crazy in the living room, which is just out here. So that's why I keep looking here, because I hear noises coming from him and I don't know what he's doing. So your baseline conditioning is the thing that holds you back, because your baseline conditioning is based on a set of ideas, a set of data, a set of feedback that you've been receiving from the world that has told you, act like this, be like this is what we need to hear from you, this is what people need to feel from you, this is what people need to see from you. Again, AKA be nice, try to be light, try to not rock the boat too much, try to keep your head down, all that. Baseline conditioning. So what happens is, over time, as you get into the game of sales, as you get into the high ticket space, as you get into whatever field you go into, generally and specifically high ticket sales, this is where it affects you the most. You optimize for and you begin to communicate on the wrong things. Okay, and the problem with this is on a sales call, when you're selling a high ticket service, let's say it's for your agency, or let's say that it's for the company you work for, you want to optimize for only one thing. The only thing you want to optimize for is driving the sale forward. That's it. In your communication, in the way that you have a dialogue with your prospects, there's nothing else you want to optimize for other than driving the sale forward. Does this make sense? So what happens is, if you're optimizing for things like connecting, for things like building rapport, which I hear a lot of closers do, right? Like, how do you build rapport? If you're optimizing for those things, you're not actually optimizing for the different triggers when it comes to communication, when it comes to leadership, when it comes to framing, when it comes to tonality, all these things. You're not optimizing for the triggers that lead someone to want to make a buying decision. So instead, you're optimizing for the things that are going to have a nice conversation, but these are not things that cause someone to necessarily want to buy. And it doesn't mean that people are not going to buy, right? I want to be clear. It doesn't mean that out of 80 calls you take, some people will not end up buying, because I'd be crazy if I said that. I know people who have come into sales and have had some success, not a lot of success, but they've had some success with virtually no training, right? I even talked to some people like this, or my team talks to them. We just reviewed a guy who came from here, and we talked to him about where he's at in the sales space, and he's like, I've taken 100 calls from my agency. I think that I'll be able to do well on a high ticket offer. He won't. He's going to do very bad if he gets on, and I'm not even hating on this guy. I wish him all the best. Me and my team, we know, because we've experienced this, we've gone through, the game of sales and have seen the progression of different sales reps, right? So we know that he's not going to be able to see success, and it sucks. I want him to see success, but if you're not optimizing for skill set and you're optimizing instead for, as a sales rep or as a business owner, for good conversations, and you're optimizing for connection, and you're optimizing for, I'm a natural at talking to people, what's going to happen is you're going to miss the mark more often than not, and your numbers will be low and you just won't get paid. That's what happens. So you take 80 calls, let's say, again, relying on natural conversation, and I have a good rapport, I connected with this person, maybe you'll close 15 out of 80. Maybe you will, right? I'm not saying you can't close anyone, right? But how do you get to 40%, which is where your cash comes from, because your commissions are dependent on your ability to close more directly, right? How do you get there? It's optimizing for actions on a call that are going to drive the sale forward. Not connecting, not building rapport, not just having a good conversation, and not just being a natural. And what a lot of sales reps do, and this is something that I have to train our people out of, is they're optimizing for the wrong frame. So what happens is prospects don't respect you on a call, and this was me, like this would happen to me before I figured out how to do this correctly. Prospects would not respect me, and then they also don't respect their own desired outcomes. Both of those things can be true, right? So they won't respect you as the sales rep, where they're kind of just like, I can give whatever answers I want, and whatever answers I give, hey, we'll figure it out, right? I'll just give the answer that's the easiest one to give. I'll give the what I call the lowest leverage answers, the ones that are just the easiest. Right, let's say you go into fear state and you talk about what someone fears and what they don't want to happen in their future. Hey, I'm just curious, like if you didn't make this money, and let's say that you didn't have success, what does that look like going forward? An answer that's a low leverage answer is, oh, I won't let that happen. And then what do you do as a sales rep? If you're optimizing for connection, you'll have a good chat about it. You're like, good, and I'm happy you won't, and I'm happy you won't let that happen, and we don't want you to let that happen either, so I'm happy we're on the same page. Boom, you didn't get your question answered. You just lowered the standard, and now the prospect is aware that unconsciously, they're not thinking of this logically, but the prospect is aware that that is the standard you're holding on the call, and that's the nature of the conversation you're going to have, right? So this is what it looks like when you optimize for being liked. This is what it looks like when you optimize for being the nice sales rep, which is not helping you, and a lot of sales reps do this. You're unconsciously selling from a fear-based position, right? So the position that you take on the call is not grounded in, let's make change and let's get from point A to point C to point E to point G and move forward and help you make a whole bunch of money and change your life. Instead, what you're doing is you're optimizing for a fear-based position, which is, how can I make the person have a good experience on the call? And their lives don't get changed and you don't get paid. And this happens over and over. And I'm telling you, this happened to me. So this is not me just ranting at you, telling you, like, hey, don't do this. I experienced this because I was a sales rep. I was stuck at 2 to 3K a month for about 2 months. And then I started making a little more money because I started to learn objections. But even after I learned objections, I went to like 6, 8K. I learned objections. I still had that fear-based, right? And even though I knew the process of objection handling and I became very, very good at objections, this is towards the end of 2023, just coming into 2024, I still hadn't optimized for sales triggers and sales drivers on my calls. So my close percentage, although it was okay, there was more I could have done. And the thing that changed everything for me is what we call adjusting what you control for. And I'll explain this in a second. But what it looked like was I started selling a dating offer that was $20,000. And I've talked about that here on the channel. Some of you know my story. Some of you know this. I started selling a dating offer that was $20,000. That changed my life because, one, I would just get paid more. But me learning how to sell that offer and learning how to have real conversations where I was ended in charging a lot for the dating company I was working for, the coaching company, me realizing like, I have to set a standard if I'm going to close this dude and have him pay 20 grand on the call. I'll never forget the day that I closed the $17,000 paid in full. I talk about it here sometimes because that was one of my best days in sales. Closed at 17K paid in full, and I think that day I did 30,000 in cash collected. So you do the math on that. That was like 3.5K, something like that in comms because I had a bonus for PIF. So, you know, I made a whole bunch in a day after just like, I think I took 3 or 4 calls that day and went 2 for 3 from what I remember. I think one guy was a no-show, maybe something like that. So, but I like that day transformed my life because I realized, and that was when I realized I was really good. I was like, oh, this is the standard that I'm holding for myself now, my prospects, where I'm adjusting what I control for. And it will change your life too. I'll explain how it works. So when you're conducting an experiment, adjusting the control comes from scientific literature and scientific experimental procedure. So when you're conducting an experiment in the science world, what happens is there's a control in any experiment. A control is an element that remains unchanged or unaffected by other variables, right? So the control is essentially the thing that doesn't change throughout the entire experiment that the scientists base the entire experiment on, right? So it's maybe a data set or it could be a factor inside the experiment. Like let's say you put 50 milliliters of water in a beaker and across all the different tests, you always have 50 milliliters of water, right? That's the thing that is the control for the experiment. It's not changing. It's the same thing no matter what kind of experiment you do or what variation of the experiment you do. So what I do and what I teach my people to do in protocols and what I urge you to do and to look into doing this because it will make you money is starting to control for and optimize for process over connection, aka the word protocols as I have on the hat, right? Optimizing for process over connection will put you in a position where you have extreme leverage on your calls, extreme leverage to move your prospects into a buying decision on the call without having a strong desire, without them having a strong desire to just put that off, right? We call it prioritizing process over connection, aka the protocols. Now, connection, I want you to be clear on something. Connection can still happen during the call because what I'm not trying to do is I'm not trying to have a bad connection with someone. I'm not trying to ruin the sales call. I want to be clear. I'm not trying to do that. I'm not like, how can I go into this call and make it a terrible experience for myself and the prospect? But the only thing that I'm optimizing for is my process. The only thing that I'm controlling for is my protocols. So when I teach my guys, when I look at my own stuff, when I consult for business owners who have high ticket services, what I do is I'm always like, what are we controlling for and what can remain unchanged? The only thing that should remain unchanged is your process. Every single time. Go through discovery, current state, create gap, right? Create urgency triggers, create a gap. Like I already said, like then where will you be then versus where you'll be now? Get a clear problem, right? What's not working and how does that fit within the framework of what your company does and how you guys solve a problem for them, right? All of this is the control and objections. How do you do your due diligence to make sure that we're handling fear? How do you make sure you're handling logistics? How do you understand how to park money? These are all things we teach, right? Frameworks that are going to make you money because the frameworks, the principles and the process is where the cash comes from. And I'm not telling you guys this from a point of like, hey dude, just follow this little process and this little script. I'm actually telling you that having a process that you can consistently rely on and count on, that you predict and you know where you're going in every single call, that, my friend, great cigar, little baby cigar here. Cigarello is my favorite. Got to get the nicotine kick during the day. Probably unhealthy, and I'll probably regret this as I'm older, but hey, I have a lot of work to do and I'm always grinding, so there we go. I have a little help with me. Right, I'm not telling you guys to use some corny little script. What I'm telling you is have a process, and have a process that you can actually execute on. Now, what I'll say is, quick thing before we continue, there's a little more I want to give you here. I give my whole process away on our newsletter. So if you look down below, I might have it as the first post in the comments pinned, or if you look in the description of the video, it says the Protocols newsletter. The Protocols newsletter is where I break down and share in detail my entire process, and I give it away for free. So it's everything that I don't share on YouTube in terms of my own calls. I have my call reviews in there. I have conversations with other sales reps, like where we're training hard on objections leadership, and I really show you inside the belly of the beast of high ticket sales. There's no other. There's a couple good newsletters out there, but I don't think there's any other newsletter that I've seen at least that explains and gives you as much training as I do on the newsletter, on this Protocols newsletter. And it's free to join. You just put in an email and I'll send you over the emails and you get everything right from my own mind. I don't have someone else writing it. I write it myself. So I would recommend checking out the Protocols newsletter, join it, and get a bunch of value and make money from it. Going back to what I was saying, so connection can happen during the call still, or again, connection can happen, but it has to happen through the process, not at the expense of the process. So connection, again, we could replace process with protocols. Connection needs to happen through the protocols, not at the expense of the protocols, right? Connection and protocols are different things, but connection comes within protocols. So you can still connect with someone, you can still have a great vibe as long as you're not breaking rules. Because when you start to break rules at the expense of the process, right, then you start to bleed your income, and that's when you get trapped at like 5K per month, 6K per month as a closer. So you're taking on 80 to 100 calls, and you're stuck at a 25 to 30% close rate, making 6K incomes, right, when you actually could be smashing 15K plus months if you bumped that to 35, 40%, right, or sold a higher tier package, all right, there we go, but you don't do it because you don't have process. So what I want to do, and I implore all of you to do this, and this is my focus and how I changed my life, I want to go in with a strong vision to help the person to make change. Right, you see what I'm optimizing for. I'm not optimizing for being nice. I'm not optimizing for a good connection. I'm not optimizing for like, did the person like me on the call? I'm not optimizing for, did this person have a good laugh with me? Because I would do this on all my previous calls. I was always doing this. Instead, I'm optimizing for a strong vision. Optimizing for a strong vision to create change with this person and have them be in a different position in their lives or in their business, because this works in B2B and B2C. Both. It works in both of them. I'm not just giving you some stuff that's like selling a $3,000 package on VShred. I'm not telling you that. This also works for B2B as well, right? Consulting, business coaching, mentoring, whatever the industry you're in, it works. We're optimizing for creating change. We're optimizing for putting someone in a better position than when they first came on the call. And the absolute only way that you can do that is if you have process, if you have protocols. That's it. Hopefully it landed and made sense for you. What I'll tell you is, if you want to dive in, there was nothing there. This thing keeps dying. If you want to dive in and get better, and you're serious about the game of sales, if you're a closer and you know that you could be making more money, and you're not at the place you want to be, what you can do is book a call with my team. It's not a sales call, by the way. What we have down below is a 15-minute strategy call. We don't sell you anything. When I first made this channel, I made a commitment that I would not sell on YouTube, and I still hold the same thing. We're not selling you anything on this call. It's just a strategy call where we can see if we can help you at all. And we figure out what you need when it comes to sales, when it comes to high-ticket sales, see if there's alignment. And if there is alignment, we'll invite you to then book a sales call, yes. But we won't pitch you anything on this call. It's just 15 minutes. Or if there is no alignment, we'll say, hey, I don't think we can help. And we'll point you in the right direction of where you could go to get what you need and what you're looking for. Because some of you, we really can't help, and that's fine. But some of you, we can. And if we can't help you, then we'll say, hey, talk to us about getting coaching and proper training. All right. Hopefully that made sense. Hopefully you had value from that. Go out and make some money and apply these things, and change your life. Because I don't make this for my health. I make it so you can make more money. Goodbye. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one.